it's really important that when you are in a place where you're getting triggered, you take that moment to go, okay, I have the ability to choose my reaction right now. I have the ability to choose and the power to choose what kind of label I am going to attach to this situation right here, right now. What kind of meaning am I going to give this right here, right now?
Welcome to the Soul Wide Open podcast with your host, author and certified trauma-informed coach Michelle Renee.
Hi everyone, I am Michelle Renee, your host of Soul Wide Open. Thank you so much for tuning in. And today I am so excited about this topic. It is something that I live my life by. It's something that I am all in on it. And that is the art of choosing happiness. I mean, being happy honestly seems like it's so elusive sometimes. We all have so many challenges in our lives. We've got everything coming at us from so many different directions. And so many of us, like me, we've overcome some really traumatic situations that have just impacted our lives in ways sometimes that keep us in a place of responding as if we're still in survival mode. We're walking around still with these behaviors and these adaptations and these coping mechanisms that we needed when we were in a place of survival that we're not really in anymore, but we're still sort of hanging on to some of those behaviors that are blocking us from choosing to be happy. And even when we want to choose to be happy, sometimes we just don't know how. And we don't know how to get unstuck and just really choose that road that makes us feel joy and happiness. And so today we're talking about the ways that you can choose the art of happiness. So let's dive right in. Okay, I'm going to be really vulnerable and honest here. There has been times in my life where happiness just seemed impossible. After the violent kidnapping and hostage situation, I did not know if I would ever feel this great sense of joy and curiosity about the world. I was afraid of everything, including my own shadow. I was angry. I was scared. I was in such a state of trauma that I just didn't know if it was ever going to be possible, not only for myself, but for my daughter. And once I really decided that I wasn't going to allow that situation to steal and rob me of joy and happiness for the rest of my life, I really started to dive into what I could do really every day and sometimes multiple times a day to cultivate happiness in my life, to really do things that brought me a sense of joy and passion and really this excitement about life again that I lost for a little while after surviving everything that we've survived. So for me, there are very specific things every single day that I really make sure that I focus my attention on. I have routines that I just really try not to break every single morning, pretty much in the afternoon and definitely in the evening as well. And they keep me on track and they keep me in a state of being and in a state of being able to focus on right now in the present moment and allowing me to say, look, I'm going to choose happiness right now in this moment, even when things get challenging. And there's certain things that I do that I absolutely want to share with you. So the absolute number one thing for me is I began to understand that I really did have a choice when it came to my own happiness. The power of choosing, the knowing that you have that power to choose your state is it's the greatest high in the world, really. And for me, it was understanding that I could choose to either allow what happened, keep me in a state of fear, a state of anxiety, a state of anger, a state of blame, all of those things. Yes, something traumatic happened. Yes, I grew up with a traumatic environment or in a traumatic environment, but there comes a point in time where we have to decide, hey, I'm not going to allow that to rule my life anymore. How can I live my life that's in a way that's joyful, in a way that's spontaneous and ridiculously curious, and get out there and become your most authentic, highest level self that you can possibly be. And that's not possible unless you decide that you are going to choose happiness. And what's really cool is when I was thinking about the title of this and thinking about choosing the art of choosing happiness, I was thinking of artists out there that are making art, artists that are doing tattoo, artists that are creating music. There's so many different kinds of artists and art out there. And what do they have to create their art? They have tools, they have instruments, they have brushes, they have paints, they have canvas, they have musical instruments, they have ink if you're a tattoo artist or whatever it is. They have tools. And I really wanted to share some of the tools that I use every single day that help me really, really choose in my life to be happy. So the number one thing, again, it's choice. We are upside down in our lives sometimes. I totally get it. I've been there. And we end up adapting certain behaviors that when we're triggered, we go right back into this response that we're so used to having that we don't even realize that we're going backwards and we're going straight into this old behavior pattern, or we're responding in a way that we actually needed to respond back when we were in a situation that was a survival situation. But guess what? You're no longer in that situation where you need to respond with this sort of fight or flight or this fear, this retreat, retract kind of response. It's important that when you are in a place where you're getting triggered, you take that moment to go, okay, I have the ability to choose my reaction right now. I have the ability to choose and the power to choose what kind of label I am going to attach to this situation right here, right now. What kind of meaning am I going to give this right here, right now? I could choose for it to have no meaning. I can choose for it to have a devastating meaning, like, oh my gosh, this is devastating. Or I can choose to say, this is meant to be a lesson. Or I recently had a situation where it was a very hurtful, painful situation, and I chose to say, I was delivered from that situation. I was taken out of that situation for a reason. And even if I don't understand it now, or I don't know the true reason for that quite yet, I actually get to choose how I feel about what happened. And for me, I was delivered from that. And for me, it's like, okay, if there's a toxic person in my life, I get to choose whether or not they have a seat at my table. And it's a table, maybe what if it's a once-in-a-lifetime dinner? Think of it like this. It's a once-in-a-lifetime dinner at the most beautiful place that you've ever dreamed, in your favorite place anywhere in the world, with only your best VIP, high-level, amazing, loyal, beautiful friends and family around the table. Who is going to be at that table, and who does not deserve a seat at that table? You have the power to choose that, and so much more in your life every day. So start tapping in to that amazing power of choice. The second thing is gratitude and appreciation. Without it, I feel like it's almost impossible to really live in a state of happiness and cultivate joy in your life without appreciation, without gratitude for so many things, for everything, for the body that you have, for the water coming out of your tap, for the fact that you get to make a little shift and it turns from hot to cold. And then you can even go deeper. If you really want to get deep into gratitude and really, kind of dig into that, start thinking about all the engineers that it took to get that water to you. The plumbers, the engineers, the people who laid the piping that actually gets the water to flow. I mean, just think about the miracle that it is and all the hard work that went into the fact that you actually get running water. And there's so many other things like that that you can be grateful for. Getting in your car, every time you reach for that handle and get in your car, think about what it took to create that amazing piece of machinery. I mean, there's even the little things. There's this little things and big things like that you can focus on, just being in the moment and appreciating, and have just a ton of gratitude every single day. The other thing that's really key in choosing the art of happiness is a positive mindset. And that to me means every time we're up against a challenge, because it happens. I mean, I'm up against challenges probably every day. And when we're up against challenges, we need to be able to not allow those situations to just completely hijack us emotionally, spiritually, and literally have us starting to spiral in a downward motion. We need to have certain things that we do, that we say to ourselves, that we write down, that we repeat to ourselves, a song that we put on that we can dance to in the living room, something we can just drop everything, go in the kitchen and cook something that we love to cook, or go to the gym. There has to be something that you do in your life every single day that is really helping you to maintain a positive, joyful, self-loving mindset. So whatever that is for you, that's something that you need to figure out. Write down the top 10 things that you love to do. Top 10, include things you haven't done in so long that you used to do that maybe you miss so much. That is a huge key for me, is really staying focused, especially when I feel a big emotional hit coming, or one that actually hits and I find myself feeling like I just got hit with a stun gun, and going, okay, how am I going to process this? Am I going to let this take me out of the game for a day or a week or a month? Or am I going to say, okay, I give myself 1 hour to really process this, think about it, or 2 hours or whatever it is, and go, okay, what can I do to shift this and reframe this into thinking about this in a more positive way, in terms of what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? That is really, really, really important. I hope you take me up on that and really start to practice that. Something else that's key: how do you have happiness and joy without passion and purpose? I have no idea, because for me, passion and purpose is such a huge part of my life. I just don't know what I would do without taking the time to tap into, whether you want to call that an inner voice, an inner calling, your spiritual life, whether it's meditation or prayer, which I do both of those often, pretty much every single day. It's just a part of my everyday life, so that I can stay very connected with that voice and very connected with what my purpose is, and continue to be really passionate about what I'm meant to do in the world. And this is a big thing too, when I meditate or I pray, or I'm just, sitting having a chit chat with whatever you want to call it, God, universe, spirit. I literally say, what am I meant to do? Not what I want to do, not who I want to be. It's who am I meant to be? What am I meant to do? Where am I meant to go? What is the message that I'm meant to deliver? I'm very deliberate about really focusing on and being committed to what is meant to be, and not just what I want. And I think there's a really big difference there. It can seem very subtle, but it's a really big difference there that makes it creates such a shift when you start focusing away from what I want versus what is meant and what is meant to be. So that's a big part of passion and purpose for me in my life. Nurturing relationships for me is really everything, because look at everything in your life. Look at everything in your life right now. What is your relationship to your spouse, your family, your friends? What is your relationship to your job? What is your relationship to food? What is your relationship to spirit or God? What is your relationship to nature? What is your relationships at work? Everything revolves around relationships. I don't believe without nurturing really quality, high level relationships that are mutually rewarding, that are not toxic, that are mutually supportive and open and non-judgmental, and just really allowing that core of love and understanding to sit right there in the pocket in the middle of that relationship, to be the driver of your relationships and nurture that. I just don't know how happiness is actually something that you can have that's sustainable, that's going to be long term, without really focusing on every form of a relationship in your life in a positive way. So whatever you do, start really tapping into what you need to do to nurture the relationships, every kind of relationship in your life. Oh, and this, last but not least, self-care. Self-care is not just getting a mani-pedi. Self-care isn't just going and getting a massage. Self-care is everything from not self-sabotaging, not talking down to yourself. Self-care is doing something you love every day. Self-care is making sure that you're not allowing other people to treat you poorly and put you down. Self-care is doing something and being in service to others and feeling that joy of giving. That is actually self-care as well. There are so many different layers to self-care that I feel like, especially on social media, self-care is like, oh, I'm self-caring today. I took a hike, or I'm self-caring today. I went and got my hair done. It was my day for a new do, whatever. That is just the surface of self-care. There is such a deeper level of self-care that I really encourage you to tap into, that really looks at how am I self-sabotaging and how can I turn that around and stop self-sabotaging as a way of caring for myself. Self-care, it means caring for yourself, caring about yourself. So I would encourage you to really look on those deeper levels when it comes to self-care, and how self-care really attaches itself to your attitude, your mood, your emotions, your level of energy. So in order to really tap into that artful happiness, that curated, artful, committed happiness in your life, these are some of the things that you can do on a daily basis that are completely things that you don't have to, they're not going to take up your entire day. I'm not saying you need to sit down and write a journal for 30 days. These are steps and tools and techniques that you can use every single day to make sure that you are focusing on living a life that's happy, that's joyful. And is it going to happen all the time? Of course not. That's not realistic. That's not sustainable either. But the goal is to spend as much of your life, as much of your day in a state of happiness, in a state of joy as possible. And in order to do that, these are just some of the really great ways that work for me. And I hope that this has been very helpful for you. My intention is that you start using some of these techniques and some of these tools that I use that are just been a game changer for me. So start incorporating these, start living your life that's focused on passion and purpose and gratitude and intention. And self-care is such a big one, and really just, nurture those relationships. Make sure those relationships are valuable to you, that they're not just sucking from you, that they're actually mutually giving. And really just choose to go out there no matter what you've survived. I know so many of us, and especially people here in the Soul Wide Open community, we've survived a lot. A lot of us have really come through some really incredible situations that had a lot of trauma attached to them. But guess what? The power of choice. We get to choose to live with our souls wide open. So I hope this has been helpful for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to get in touch with me, head on over to Instagram. It's _Michelle Renee _ and look for some really great, wonderful, exciting announcements coming out about the Soul Wide Open community that will be announced soon. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.